Today I'm gonna tell you everything about my coloring process from start to finish. It's not supposed to be a tutorial really, but more of like a walkthrough my whole drawing process. So yeah, I really hope that you guys gonna enjoy it. Let's get into it. Also, a selection of new prints just went live on my website nataliamadej.com, so if you guys wanna buy some new goodies for yourself, then make sure you check it out. The link is gonna be in the description box. And also, since it's Halloween, there's also a 20% off entire website discount code for you guys, so yeah, make sure you check it out. First off, let's focus on the art supplies that I'm gonna be using today. First things first, the fineliners. My favorite ones are Mangaka Kuretake 0.03 and 0.05. Next off, the erasers, and my favorite ones are the kneaded erasers from Faber Castell and also the regular ones, the dust-free ones. And also I like to use the Kohinoor pencil erasers for the smallest details. Next, the alcohol-based markers. For most of my drawings, I prefer to use copic markers, usually the sketch version or the chow version. These are pretty much the same, just the size is different, but they all have the brush nib, so that's super important for me. And as a complementary markers, I like to use Winsor & Newton Pro markers and brush markers, along with ohuhu markers and arrtx markers. Here the brand doesn't really matter, I use plenty of different markers, it's more about the colors that I'm gonna be using in my drawings, rather than the brand itself. And for the finishing touches, I'm obviously gonna be using the colored pencils, and here my favorite ones are Prismacolor Premier pencils and Faber Castell Polychromos pencils. And for some last details, I'm gonna be using a white gel pen and a white Posca pen. Alright, so first things first, we're obviously starting off with our sketch being already completed, because today we're obviously not focusing on the sketching part, we're focusing more on the coloring. So the first thing that I like to do before going in with the markers, I like to outline my drawing a little bit. And here I'm gonna be using the 0.03 fineliner because I like my outline to be very subtle. I don't want it to overpower my drawing just yet. So I'm just outlining the most crucial parts of my drawing. So once I erase the pencil lines, the sketch is still visible, but I already have a little bit of outline to be the sort of frame for my coloring, if that makes sense. So that's just my personal preference. I know that a lot of people like to go in with the fine liners and the outline already quite heavy-handed at this point, so it's obviously all up to you. I just like my outline to be quite subtle, so I'm just keeping it very light-handed. I'm also trying to not press the fine liner super hard against the paper, so it doesn't leave those very harsh lines that we can't kind of go around later on. So yeah, like I said, I'm being very gentle with my outline. Once I'm pretty happy with my outline, I'm taking my kneaded eraser and I'm gonna be erasing the sketch from underneath the outline, just to get rid of all the excessive pencil lines and just to have a clean base to go in with my markers. Since I'm gonna be coloring the face first, I'm focusing on erasing the pencil lines from this area first, and I'm trying to be very precise with that because I really don't want my markers to smudge the pencil that is still on the paper. I want to erase pretty much all of the pencil that is left on the face. Once this is done, I'm taking the color that I'm gonna be coloring her complexion with. And here I'm just going in with the marker right away. I'm trying to be quite precise with the color that I'm applying, and I'm obviously trying to not leave any streaks on her face because, you know, face is very important, so we really want it to be smooth and we want the blending to be immaculate. And once the first layer of color is already applied, I'm sticking with the same color of the marker and I'm just gonna darken the areas that will be shaded on her face. So a little bit around the nose, under the lip, around the eyes. So I'm pretty much just deepening up the shading at this point. And now I'm taking a slightly darker marker to enhance those shaded areas even more, but I'm still trying to make everything look quite effortless and smooth. So yeah, I'm just trying to blend everything together. After that, I'm going in with the lighter marker to once more blend everything together so it's all seamless and smooth. And when it comes to coloring the face and the complexion in general, unless you have some good reference pictures that really show how the light is being spread on the face, for example, you just kind of need to wing it, you know, just feel and think where the darkest areas are going to be, and then apply the shadows there. And for the highlighted areas, just leave them with 1 or 2 layers of color maximum so they pop up a little bit more, and then those shaded areas are gonna be enhanced even more. So that's the kind of rule, I guess. So once I'm pretty satisfied with my marker base on the face, I'm going in with colored pencils. And here I need to tell you guys that I'm a person that likes to color my drawing in little steps, let's say. I'm not applying the marker layer first off on all the departments of my drawing, let's say. But I like to take those small steps, and first off, I'm always coloring the face, because if the face turns out bad, I'm very likely to not continue on with the drawing, because face is the most crucial element of any of my drawings for me. So that's the thing. And therefore, once I'm happy with my face coloring and how it turned out, I can easily move on to the other elements of my drawing. So yeah, that's my sort of process, let's say. So that's why already at this very stage of my drawing process, I'm going in with colored pencils just to finish off the face first. So when it comes to the coloring with the colored pencils, here the rule is pretty similar to the coloring with the markers, because first I'm going in with the medium shade to enhance the darkest areas on her face, just to enhance the shading overall a little bit. And then I'm blending everything with lighter pencil, then I'm going in with even darker pencil, and once more I'm just kind of winging it, you know? My goal in all of that is to make her face look as natural as possible, also quite three-dimensional, because we really want our drawing to feel quite lifelike. And apart from that, we obviously want to have that nice blending of colors, some highlights and some shadows, and everything sort of balanced. And now we're gonna move on to coloring the hair. And hair is probably my favorite part to color, because it's quite simple, but yet it's just so much fun, you know? So here what we're gonna be doing is, obviously firstly I'm erasing the pencil lines from my sketch, because like I said, I like to color in my drawing in sections. So the hair section is still with some pencil sketch lines, so we're gonna handle that right now. And once we have the clean base to go in with coloring, I'm gonna pick the shade that I'm gonna be using to color in her hair today. And I'm using this muted brown sort of color, this sort of cappuccino shade, a really nice one, by the way. So right away, I'm gonna apply the first layer of color to be my base for further shading. And once this is done, I'm gonna apply a little bit more of the same shade of the marker, just to deepen up the shaded areas and just to give the hair a little bit of texture and depth. So while coloring hair, I'm mostly focusing on using colored pencils, because they will give me the sort of precision that I really want while drawing particular strands of hair, but they will also allow me to add that hair-like texture to my hairstyle. And once I'm done with her hairstyle, I'm moving into coloring the remaining parts of the drawing. And here I'm starting off with coloring her hands, because that's the sort of next element that I want to focus on. And here the process is pretty much identical to the one when I'm coloring the face. So first I'm going in with the base color of the marker, then I'm adding a little bit of shading with the same marker. Then I'm deepening up the shading with a darker marker, and I'm blending everything together with a lighter marker. And once I have that, I'm adding a little bit of colored pencils to enhance everything and to add a little bit more of texture and depth to my shading and coloring. And yeah, I'm just kind of, you know, going with the flow. At this stage of my drawing, I'm not really minding the details yet, like for example the highlights or her nails or the jewelry. I'm gonna be taking care of all of that at the very end of my drawing process. And now it's finally the time to move on to clothing. And here I decided that I'm gonna keep her t-shirt white, but keeping the clothes white doesn't really mean that there's not gonna be any color on them. And honestly, coloring white clothing is quite tricky because you really want to enhance the fact that this is white, but obviously leaving a t-shirt, for example, completely blank is not a good option because that's just gonna stand out way too much. We really wanna add some shading to it, give it some texture, give it some shape, so that's what we're gonna be doing today. And here I'm taking one of my most favorite gray markers, the N0 from Copic, and this is my absolutely favorite shade for shading, let's say, especially white objects, because it's very neutral, it's very light, and it blends like a dream, so I advise you guys look it up. So yeah, firstly I'm going very light-handed with it, and I'm just enhancing the most shaded areas and the places that my t-shirt is gonna be folding and bending a little bit. And here I would really advise you guys, if you're drawing a certain pose with a certain sort of piece of clothing, item of clothing, just try to put a similar thing on yourself, stand in such a pose and take a picture of yourself just to see where all the foldings are gonna be. Because if you're someone that is at the beginning of your art journey, it might be very hard for you to figure out where the foldings are gonna be, and therefore I'm guessing that it will be really hard for you to make them look natural on your drawing, and it might really ruin your whole piece. So I really advise you guys trying out this method because it's super easy, it's super helpful, and I'm using it myself because it just helps me out to get all my details right. So yeah, that's something that I can totally advise you guys do that. And anyway, like you can tell, I didn't add super much shading on the t-shirt yet because I really don't want to overpower my white t-shirt with gray tones and gray shading. So at this stage, I'm kind of keeping it very low-key, very light-handed. So I definitely might be adding more shading to that t-shirt later on, but for now I think that is good. And now finally I'm gonna be moving on to coloring her sweatpants, and I really wanted her pants to be this sort of light sage color that is so in right now. And the only marker that I could find that had this color that I was looking for was the arrtx marker that I just reviewed one video back. So yeah, this is what I'm gonna be using today. And here the same kind of story, the same kind of scenario. I'm applying the base layer first, and then I'm just enhancing the shading, I'm enhancing the fold on the sweatpants, and I'm just applying this sort of next layer to deepen everything up. Once I'm happy with my marker coloring and once I'm satisfied with it, I'm taking my Prismacolor pencils because these were the only pencils that I had that had those very similar colors, a little bit lighter and a little bit darker ones to the base color of the marker that I just applied. So this is what we're gonna be using. So yeah, here the same procedure. I'm just gonna be enhancing my shading with slightly darker pencil, and I'm gonna blend everything together with the pencil that is almost the same tone as my marker base. And here, as you can tell, the most shading is gonna be on the folds on her sweatpants and also around her booty area, because this is the place that is gonna be the most shaded. So this is the place where we wanna put the most emphasis and the most shading. And now our last element to color are gonna be the shoes. And here this part is pretty simple because we're just gonna fill in the shoes with the desired colors, and then we're just gonna add a little bit of shading. And the key while drawing shoes, also I have a shoe tutorial if you haven't checked it already. The link is gonna be in the card as well if I don't forget to include that. But yeah, when it comes to coloring shoes, the most important thing is to get all the details right, but then just use reference pictures. There's plenty of pictures of awesome shoes on the internet, so I really hope that you're gonna find the one that you want to draw, and then just focus on those details, add a little bit of shading, and then you're pretty much good to go. Coloring shoes is definitely not the hardest thing to do, I would say. And at this point we're pretty much approaching the end of our coloring process of our today's drawing. But obviously, looking at the whole picture, I see that there is a little bit of shading missing in some areas. I could also add a little bit of outline to the whole piece. So these are the things that I'm handling the last, and here once more you just kind of need to wing it. I also don't like to go in super hard with my outline, even at the very last stages of the drawing. Like you can see on all of my work, the outline is really not taking up super much of the focus from the drawing, so I like to keep it quite minimal, but I still want to be existent. So this is one of the things that I'm doing last. And yeah, like I said, I'm also adding a little bit of shading. I'm adding some details here and there. So basically, you know, handling the whole drawing. And as the very last steps to my coloring process, I'm obviously gonna color in the details like the jewelry, the nails, some details on her phone, and I'm also gonna add the highlights, especially to her lips and to her eyes as well. But also here I felt like her outfit was a little bit blank and it definitely needed a little bit of extra spice. So what I did was I added some prints on the leg of her sweatpants, those kind of smiley faces that I think look pretty cool, and also some writing next to the pocket of her sweatpants. And also I felt like the t-shirt could use some love as well, so I added the same sort of writing on her sleeve, and I think that really completed the whole piece. And before that also, because I forgot to mention, I added this sort of shadow under her, around her shoes, because I really feel like this also brings this whole drawing together and it makes it more natural, I would say. So yeah, that's pretty much how I color my drawings and how this drawing was created. And honestly, I really hope that this sort of video was helpful for you guys, that you were able to pick up some tips and tricks from me. Let me know if I told you anything you don't know already, and yeah. And also let me know, how did you like the drawing? Honestly, it might be one of my favorites that I did recently, so let me know your opinion. And yeah, I'll be wrapping up for now, so thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all and I can't wait to see you in my next videos. Take care, bye!
I'm just going with the gut, never had a doubt, felt like this is just a must. Put me in perspective, I'm the deepest in the cut. Everybody tuning in, but this is just for us now.